Mr. Josiah Oldcastle was very fond of old cars. He had a baby Austin 7 which lived in the garage with the green door. Next door was a garage with red doors, but it was empty. I had another car once, a blue vintage car with a black hood. I had to sell it, he told his grandson Dan. I wonder where it is now. That day he received a catalogue for a vintage car sale. On the first page was a picture. "That's it!" cried Mr. Oldcastle. "It must be Gumdrop." And it was. Next day at the auction, many people wanted to buy it. The auction began, and it was soon Gumdrop's turn. People bid very quickly, and the price got higher and higher. At last, "Going, going, gone!" and the auctioneer banged down his hammer. "Sold to Mr. Banger." "I couldn't afford to buy it back," Mr. Oldcastle told his grandson sadly. Mr. Banger put Gumdrop in the showroom with all the new cars. People all looked at Gumdrop, but didn't buy the new cars. So he sold Gumdrop to Archibald Gridline, who wanted to race him. "That car's not smart enough for me," Mr. Banger said. Archibald went to his garage, removed Gumdrop's hood, and took off the brass horn. Next day he raced Gumdrop at Silverstone. They went roaring round the track, but the other cars went faster. Then there was a bang, and Gumdrop stopped. His engine was broken. Rocky Basher helped push Gumdrop back off the track. "I'll buy it to race at the autocross," he said. "OK," said Archibald. "It's not fast enough for me." Basher repaired the engine, took off the wings and lamps to make Gumdrop lighter. Then he painted it yellow with green stripes. Next day he raced Gumdrop, but the wheel fell off. Bodger Prescott helped with the wheel. "Will you sell it to me for a hill climb?" he said. Rocky Basher agreed, because Gumdrop wasn't light enough for him. Bodger took off the windscreen, the running boards, and the spare wheel. Next day he entered the hill climb. All the cars roared up the hill. It was very slippery. Suddenly a jet of steam came out of the radiator, and Gumdrop had to stop. Bodger was out of the race. Farmer Golightly brought a can of water to help Bodger. "Will you sell it to me? It would help me on the farm," he said to Bodger. "All right," Bodger said. "It's not strong enough for me." Farmer Golightly took off the doors and the back seat to make more room for the hay and things he wanted to carry. But Gumdrop wasn't big enough, so Gumdrop was left in the farmyard, looking a very sorry sight. One day, weeks later, Mick Mulligan came past. "That'll fetch a pound or two at the scrapyard," he said. He managed to start the engine and drove away. He drove too fast, lost control on a bend, and bumped into a car standing by the roadside. It was Araminta, Mr. Oldcastle's little Austin car. He was mending a puncture and was very angry. "You blundering nincompoop," he shouted at Mick Mulligan. Mick was frightened. "I'm sorry, I can't pay for the damage," he blustered. "Tell you what, you can have the old heap instead." He then ran off. Gumdrop was not valuable enough for him. Mr. Oldcastle didn't recognize Gumdrop. "It's an Austin Heavy 12 anyway. I'll restore it," he said to Dan, and he towed Gumdrop home. Next day they went to the scrapyard to look for spare parts for Gumdrop. Mr. Ebenezer Steen, the scrap merchant, said he had quite a few parts. "Only the other day Farmer Golightly brought in some doors and seats," he said. So Mr. Oldcastle piled all the bits he wanted on Araminta and went home. So the restoration began. They bolted on the wings, running boards and windscreen. They screwed on the lamps and doors. They clamped on the hood and put in the back seat. Then they screwed on the spare wheel. Finally, they painted the body blue and the wings black. "It looks exactly like my old car now," said Mr. Oldcastle. "I wish it was Gumdrop." He looked at the engine. Its number, all cars have special numbers, was C4478. "The same!" he shouted with joy. "It really must be Gumdrop." "It is," said Dan, who'd found the old brass horn in the toolbox. It is, it's really Gumdrop." They drove into town to take part in a vintage car display. Farmer Golightly gave Mr. Oldcastle the original number plates back. The mayor gave him a special cup for restoring the car. And all the people who had owned Gumdrop came especially to see him and to congratulate Mr. Oldcastle.